Good afternoon. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule today. I was wondering your dengue vaccine, Qdenga. So far, it's not approved in India. So, have you already applied for a licensure in India with the drug regulator?
Yes, we are in active dialogue, collaborative dialogue with the regulators here in India. We've recently received our no objection certificate or certification on our clinical study, and we intend and we're working towards initiating the local clinical study very soon. And this study would be done here in India and really complement our robust global clinical data package, which maybe Gary can speak to.
Sure. So we have conducted a pretty extensive global clinical development program that has included 19 studies in over 28,000 individuals. That includes both dengue endemic and non-endemic countries. And in the course of that development, we have conducted a pivotal efficacy study. That's the largest study that Takeda has conducted to date, 20,000 children between the ages of 4 and 16. And that study has had long-term follow-up. In fact, we just published the long-term follow-up data a couple of weeks ago in the Lancet. And this study has shown the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. In fact, over the 4.5 years of follow-up, we saw a very high level of efficacy against hospitalized dengue, around 84%, and that was irrespective of whether the individuals in the study had previously experienced dengue before entering the trial or not. So we're very happy that this data has not only supported regulatory approval in over 20 countries, it's also supported vaccine recommendations. For example, WHO has recently deliberated and recommended the vaccine for use in countries with high dengue endemicity.
So, did your global trial have an Indian arm, or was the Indian population captured in some way in the global study?
No, and that's one of the reasons that we will be doing the local clinical trial that Dion referred to.
Okay, so how
The
soon,
study
sir,
did
do you?
capture a high number of endemic countries in Latin America and in Asia. So the endemic and non-endemic countries were captured in that very large study, but not India specifically.
How soon do you think you will be starting the Indian clinical study here?
Yeah, we're working as quickly as we can to move forward and start that very soon. So we haven't provided specific dates on licensure here in India, but this is a high sense of urgency. For example, dengue cases in 2006, per the government data in India, were a little over 12,000 in 2006. Fast forward 15 years to 2022, we see the high disease burden here in India and in many other countries in Asia and Latin America, and we are working towards that local clinical study with a sense of urgency.
India is obviously a leading country when it comes to vaccine manufacturing in terms of volumes. Is that why you have chosen to go with an Indian manufacturing partner? If you could outline your reasons for choosing Biological E.
Yes. We went through a process to try to find the best partner. We wanted to find a manufacturing partner in India, and through the process that we ran, we were very impressed with Biological E's experience in the vaccine space, in particular their ability to manufacture vaccines that we felt would enable them to successfully tech transfer the manufacturing process for a dengue vaccine and scale it up. So, and we also found that the values and culture fit between BioE and Takeda was very strong. So we're thrilled to be working with them as we now kick off this collaboration.
Okay, and how soon will the collaboration start rolling out the vaccine for global use?
Yeah, so it's a little difficult to speculate on the time frame for vaccine availability through the BioE collaboration. We've just signed the agreement, and now we're putting teams in place, joint steering committee to really work out the technical details. But the target is very clear. We're confident we will get to the target to be able to produce 50 million doses by the end of the decade. But we need to navigate the regulatory process, so we never speculate on regulatory timelines. The facility obviously will have to be approved by the regulators in India. That's in addition to clinical trial data, if required, by the regulators as well. So it's the beginning of the process, but we'll be able to hopefully provide updates as we get now into the collaboration in earnest.
And one of the many aspects that we are excited about with the BioE collaboration is their ability to supply the country of India, but also global markets in countries in Latin America and Asia. And so the collaboration is a cornerstone of our global manufacturing strategy. So I think that element is something that also excites us to meet, hopefully, the dengue burden in India, but also beyond.
Yes, and actually one other point about the BioE collaboration. So BioE will be developing a multi-dose vial presentation for the vaccine, which we currently don't have. That is a presentation that is preferred for use in national immunization programs, because the multi-dose vials can be stored with reduced storage space. The manufacturing cost of goods with a multi-dose vial presentation is lower than single-dose presentations, and that will help improve access to the vaccine. So this is one of the key elements of the collaboration.
And your overall target is to have 100 million annual doses by 2030, right?
Yes, yes. And BioE should contribute about 50% of those doses.
If we look at the WHO target as well, which is zero fatality from dengue by 2030, what kind of scale is required for vaccination across the globe, you think, especially in the endemic countries?
Yeah, it's a little difficult to answer that question, because I think that what we expect is that when the vaccine is implemented in national immunization programs, most governments will not be able to vaccinate their entire population. They will put in place cohort-based vaccination. That's actually what WHO is recommending for implementation of our dengue vaccine. So, even at the end of the decade, we don't expect that everyone in endemic countries will have been vaccinated. That's just not the way the national immunization programs work. But of course, other thing to consider is that vaccination is a very important component of a dengue control program, but it's not the only component. And I think vector control and other measures will ultimately be necessary to approach the WHO target.
Qdenga could also be given to children. Can you mention how young children can get this vaccine?
Yeah, so our clinical studies have evaluated the vaccine down to 4 years of age, and the age indication varies by country. Countries decide on the age indication depending on their evaluation of the clinical data, but also the epidemiology in their countries. In Europe, for example, the vaccine is licensed to be used in children 4 years and up, and adults without any upper age limit. So it's a pretty broad age range in Europe, and in many of our endemic countries, the age range is similar and includes children and adults.
And then the other important part about the label and the clinical data that we've generated is Qdenga is effective and is labeled for regardless of patients having had dengue prior or not. So there's no need for testing which I think is an important element of our label and the protection that we can bring.
And you've already launched it in private market. How have you priced it there? What is the variance in terms of different countries?
So maybe I can just say a few words about our access and pricing approach. We use a tiered pricing approach in both private and public markets. As you probably know, that is a very well accepted approach to price vaccines to ensure access. The Maybe I'll ask Dion to comment on any other specifics, but the access to one other point I can add is that in public markets we have intentionally priced the vaccines to be below the reference price for other innovative vaccines, again as a way to improve access. And as we continue to scale up and especially move toward multi-dose vials, as the cost of goods reduces, we expect that will also be reflected in the price. But Dion?
Yeah, as Gary said, we've been implementing that global strategy he outlined, which results in lower price points in lower middle income countries, with the objective of ensuring access to this vaccine, because we really feel that the vaccine needs to be accessible in order to have the benefit that our clinical data suggests and articulates. So we're executing that strategy accordingly, where in Europe the price point is typically higher, but versus Asia or Latin American countries. And for India, it's too early to sort of speculate. We're, as we talked about earlier, focused on moving forward the clinical program and towards regulatory approval. And at that point, assuming we're successful, we would intend to make it available and launch in the private market, and work towards obviously providing access to the public market here in India as well.
So for India, would you go for the public market, target the national immunization program, or you're open to launching it in the private market as well for those who are interested to buy and take a shot?
Yes, our strategy would be both. I mean, initially launching in the private market to gain experience and use and generate additional data while we work towards the public market. And that's our strategy globally, pretty much in all countries, is to make it available in the private and open up access in the public market. And I think we've had some successes there. Maybe, Gary, you want to talk about Brazil, open up the public market?
Sure. So most countries, after a vaccine is licensed, and our dengue vaccine is no exception, allow the vaccine to be introduced in the private market, but it usually takes the government time to set up a public program. And that time can vary country by country. In some Asian countries, it can be 5 to 10 years before a government will put in place a public program. What has happened in Brazil is that we launched the vaccine last year. I think it was mid 2023. But because Brazil is experiencing an unprecedented dengue outbreak, they have asked us to support early public program. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago, the vaccine public program in Brazil was initiated. So it's a bit unpredictable. We will certainly work toward accelerating public market access, but it really depends on the government's ability to set up a program, and they have to set up mechanisms to procure the vaccine in large volume. We of course have to be able to provide that volume, and that's one of the reasons the BioE manufacturing collaboration is so important. We need their support to be able to provide enough vaccine for large public programs.
Are any of the vaccine alliances like Gavi and CEPI in talks with you to source your vaccine as well?
So CEPI, no. I mean, CEPI is has a bit of a different focus, but Gavi, yes. So Gavi is currently reviewing their priorities for the next replenishment cycle. We understand that they are considering dengue. I think as a priority for their next round of replenishment, which I believe initiates in 2026. I think they'll take a final decision mid-year. So, of course, we're working with them to provide them with data to hopefully support their decision process.
And one last question was that you have withdrawn your application from the US FDA as a BLA. Would you consider refiling for the US markets?
Yes, so we certainly are interested in refiling in the U.S. We have not yet set a timeline for that. We do plan to re-engage the FDA at some point in time. We have maintained our open IND, so we have an easy mechanism to continue to consult FDA and chart a pathway for resubmission of a biological license application.
And apart from yours, how many dengue vaccines are available now globally? We know of the Sanofi vaccine, which also had its fair share of controversies, but how many are now available?
So I think our vaccine is the second generation vaccine, and there are only 2 vaccines that are currently available.
Okay. Thank you and all the best. Look forward to being in touch with you for your vaccine program for India.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Have a good rest of the day.
Yes. Take care.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.